Hello everyone, thanks for watching this video. So in this video, today we are going to understand the another enhancement or another feature of Java 1.5 or 5.0 which called as generic. Okay, so generic is the one of the best enhancement in Java. As part of Java 5 it got released. Okay, so the basically the motto of generic 5 enhancement is just to avoid the class cast exception. Okay, so reason is when we are introducing any API, so before generic we are able to insert either the string types data or integer types data, but later the client side people don't know in this API which kinds of data available, so they just blindly start iterating it, and at the end they were getting the class cast exception. The reason is the type cast is not happen properly since they don't know the which kinds of data is loaded behind the scene. So in this kinds of problem only, the this is basically the not compilation time error, this is a runtime error. So once code got compiled and then ready to run, that time it will come. Since it is class cast exception is a compile time runtime exception, so developer don't have track on while writing the code since it is not a compile time error. Okay, so this is high level about the generic introduction. We will got to know everything one by one. So till that we understood that. So my question is that it's okay that generic came and we avoid the class cast exception. We found many of the type cast issue and all those things, right? But the question is that we need to really understand that what would be the issue that generic came. Okay, so why generic came basically? So basically, if you just talk about the array, we know, right, array is the fixed size and same data type. Very array content the same data type value as well as it has the fixed size. It can't grow. Okay, that's why collection came into the picture. But that is okay. We are talking specifically about the generic here. Okay, so if you say right, let's come to the coding part. We will explain these are all one by one. So just see that we created one array. Okay, so string str equal to new string of type 10. Okay, very simple that we created one array having size 10 which is string type. No problem here, right? Now in this string I am just start keeping the value. So for 0th position, okay, I am keeping value called API. Okay, whereas first position I am keeping value as POTHI. Okay, I mean third position or second index. Okay, I am keeping as a learn. Okay, now 0 1 2 3, here I am keeping as a code, here I am keeping as a deploy. Okay, which is in fourth position. If you see in this code there is no issue. Okay, so that is perfectly fine. Okay, sorry. Okay, so no issue, just we created one array. Okay, and we start keeping the value here, so no issue. My question is that instead of a string, if I will keep, why this error? Okay, I should be having my main method. Okay, so till that no issue, we are good now. Now in fifth position, okay, or fifth index, I am keeping value as a 1, which is integer type. You are getting compilation error saying that some This is not allowed, or type mismatch, all those things. Why? Because if you see this one, this array, whatever we created, this is string type array, and this array only expecting string type value has to be inserted into this array, and we are trying to insert the integer, which is not allowed. Don't do typecasting here, like explicit typecasting, like to string and all those things, like value of integer, value of, or these are all API we don't have to use. We are just talking about the plain Java features. Okay, so we can't insert any more here, right? So this is actually good. At least you are getting compilation error, and developer got to know that okay, we are not allowed to insert another types of variable. Whatever types we declare, that only we are going to insert, which is very good. But this is not part of collections. That's what I am trying to tell here. Whereas for collection API, type is always unpredictable and unsafe. The reason is, as soon as your array denying to accept the integer type value, since this is a string type, but this is not the case of our collection. Okay, so just if you create list L equal to new array list. Okay, good. So we created one list types object, okay, which is array list. Inside the array list, I am just start adding, okay, same value I am just keeping it here. So this is our integer. Okay, good. This one is again string. This one is lar. This one is code. This one is okay. Good. So this is all about array. We understood very well now. Now we are talking about the collection, how collection is required for our generic part. Since array it's not required, just because of that array in compile time itself it's throwing the error that we are not accepting this one. We are just denying these kinds of values since you have declared me as a string. So that is good now. But if you see this string, this list type, which is none, if you see, we just created the instance of array list. There is no type specified here. Okay, so I can give any kinds of value here. See, 1. We are not getting any compilation error, right? If you put here 2.2 also, it won't give you any compilation error. So as soon as we loaded the data into the array list, and now our task is to iterate this one. Okay, so while iterating, I am just taking the array list object and I am storing into the object type, which is very fair. Okay, and just that I am just printing here. Okay, so do you think any exception will come? There shouldn't be any exception. If you run as a Java application, you won't get any exception. We are getting the data perfectly here, which is very good now. Now my question is that I have created the array list, I have loaded the data, and I am able to iterate also, and I am not getting any either compile time or any runtime exception. Then why generic required now? Okay. So motto of these 2 lines of code is to make you clear of these 2 lines. Okay. So we are good now. That this causing unsafe, I will tell you why. Okay. Now question is that in the array, right, when we are fetching the data, so basically while fetching the data, if we are fetching the data from this array, we will be very obvious that we will be getting only string type. There is no chance that integer type data will come, since integer type data itself which is not accepting while inserting itself. So there is no chance that the string type data will come. So we can easily do that. Okay, it is not feasible to perform any typecast operation if it is applicable or required. Obviously typecast required when you want to change it, right? But here no changes required, since string you are receiving string, and you don't have to string to integer, since your client know this array having string data type only. So if they want to typecast, they understood that okay, I want to typecast from string to integer, string to boolean, string to this, string to that. But if you see here, right, they know just that I will give this object to client, that take this array list, it has data loaded. Now they will start iterating it, and they will iterate it here, which is very good, very obvious, right? Now my question is that I just want to create one string variable, okay, str, and here I am going to save this object. Okay, do you think it will giving you, why it is giving you the exception? Rename. Okay, if you see here, it is giving you exception. Reason because is this object type data is object type, and you are storing into the string type, so it is asking you to do the typecast, so you have to do the typecast. So till now you are good, and we are able to print the data. Typecast also we can do, we don't have any problem. So right click, run a Java application. Do you think that compilation error won't come? It should come. See here, see APIPOTHI learn code deploy, that we already printed very successfully. But as soon as cursor come to this integer and this decimal and float, you are saying class cast exception, saying that integer cannot be converted to string. Integer cannot be converted to string. Now you commented this one. Now right click, run as Java application. If you see here, now see double. Okay, so if you see, by seeing this code, client don't know that which kinds of data is coming. So first time they converted into, they are just trying to save the data into the string type. So what are the string are there, they got successfully. But when the term come for the different data type, code got failed, and it is giving the class cast exception while runtime. Okay, class cast exception. So this is the actual problem why generic came here. So generic want this list, this array list object or this collection object to be restrict with any specific type. If you are restricting this with a string, so make sure that only string types of data is available, so that if I will do here typecasting, I should not be getting any exception saying that this is class cast exception. Okay, so this is the basic use of generic and why actually generic came. So this is exactly what I am trying to tell. Whereas for API, if collection API, since this is always unpredictable, we don't know which kinds of data will come. Sometimes we can have a string also, sometimes have integer also, we have double also. So this is always type unsafe. I told you here, right? Type unsafe. So to iterate the type unsafe, we will be always getting with the class cast exception. Okay. So to restrict this class cast exception, generic came, and generic just restricting this API. Let's not have all types of data available. Well, let's have the specific types of data available. What types you have to define just before the inserting the data itself, right? So this is good. Basically, why generic came, this is the only reason. Okay. Now what is the syntax? Syntax very simple. If you have any collection object, okay, let's create another list, my list equal to new array list. Okay, this is your collection object, and you want this object to be loaded only with your string type. So you can have this bracket open and close with the string. Okay, In Java 5 you have to define on both the places, but from Java 6 they told that you don't have to define here also. I am running this code in Java 8, that's why you are not getting compilation error. Okay, warning message, sorry. But this is not mandatory from Java 6 onwards. You have to define only here only, that's all. So this is the, I am just restricting with this array list object having only string kinds of data. Okay. Now if I want to restrict with the integer, okay, so I can have integer. Okay. Okay, good. So like that, whatever you want to restrict, you have to restrict it. So the syntax is that here is your API and you have to open your braces and close your braces, and you have to pass your data type from which you are going to restrict it. Okay, this is for your collection API. Okay, where is for class? If you want to define any class here, here, right? Suppose that you want to write here class, so you have to write a string. I will tell you in detail how it works. So like that only you have to define it here. It will give you compilation error since here main method is there. Okay, and for interface like that we will discuss further for all about. Now third thing is that lemma, means what are the predefined thing you have to understand. This is already proved, no need to prove. Okay, so in generic, whatever we are passing as a generic type, means a string, integer, float, double and all those things, that is only wrapper class. That should be only wrapper class or any custom class, means a student type, employee type, this kinds of thing. Main thing what this point trying to tell you is their primitive value shouldn't allow, right? See here we have passed the integer. Okay, so if you pass instead of integer, if you pass int, you will get compilation error. First reason is that your collection will only accept the wrapper class only. That's why wrapper class came into the picture. But for generic also, generic is only not accepting the primitive type. It accept your wrapper class, it accept your class type, it accept this kinds of thing, but shouldn't accept your primitive type. Okay, good. Now what is the next? Polymorphism concept is not applicable for generic types. Means polymorphism means you defined one as a integer and no integer, parent is for integer, parent is number, right? So you define one generic as a number and you are trying to use integer. These are all things not allowed. Okay, third thing is that for parameter types we can use any class or interface name but can't use the primitive type. I already explained you. Okay, any number of generic types of argument we can accept. Okay, suppose that your method or your API is accepting 4 parameters. Okay, so you can pass 4 generic also followed with that. If any of your API is accepting only 2, you can pass 2 also. So this is the thing only I am trying to tell you here. Okay, suppose that, see here, this is the list class, it accept the only 1, that is fine. But if you go for the map, okay, new has map. Okay, so if you create the instance of has map, we know already that map have key and value pair, so we can pass here integers as well as string, only 2 types, since map accepting 2 types of generic. Okay, that's why we are passing. So until unless it won't accept, we don't have to pass it, that's all. Suppose that any of the method, suppose that you are writing on display method. Okay, public void display. Okay, so here you will be having why error. Okay, I think I'm writing main class. Yeah. Okay, here is one method, right? I am having one argument as a int a, comma int b, comma int c. Okay, so this one more int d. So if you see, this display is accepting your 4 argument. So instead of here, you can pass your integer type generic also. I will tell you how to use the generic in your method also. Okay, so that is the motto of this line. Okay, generic not supported by array. Good question. My question is that why generic has to support array? Just reverse, you have to think it reverse. Generic came just because of that type uncertainty, right? Collection is accepting all kinds of value. It's throw the exception when we are running. But your array is not accepting other types of value. If you define array as a string, in compile time only it will accept your string types value only. It shouldn't accept your integer. If you define this array as a integer, it should accept only integer type. It shouldn't accept string type. So that's the reason there is no point to have generic here, since while writing a code itself, developer got to know that compilation error will come. Very obvious reason. Okay, this kinds of question people will ask in your interview also, which is not valid. Okay, now generic representation, I told you, right, how to represent generic over class, over method, over interface, over constructor, over API. I already told you. Now let's have one generic class here. Okay, so I have already created it here. If you see, here I have generic class which accept, let's have integer, only integer types of value here. So this is your class representation over generic. Okay, so you can have private integer my data. Okay, another you can have private string. Okay, so I am just restricting here, this class has to, here you are accepting a string, but later it got failed when you are going to create the instance of this one. Okay, that's why if you create the constructor of this one and passing integer, and from client side we will pass this one, it got failed. Okay, so this is representation over class over interface. Okay, so let's create one interface, new interface, my generic. Okay, so this is your interface. Here also you can pass generic something like that, since this interface have string types of data. This interface is accepting 2 argument, one is string, one is integer. Okay, so for that you can have something like that, string my data. We know implementation is not available till Java 7. From Java 8 onwards it's applicable. So you can pass here a string s. Okay, now create another variable, pass here integer, here also Okay, so this kinds of representation is available in generic over interface. I will tell you okay, this is fine now. Now coming to the back here. Now again we created this as a integer type class, and I will pass the integer string type data from the main method. You will get exception some point of time. Generic means generic. It should be generic means 100% generic. There is no hard coding required. So that's the reason they have given you the dynamic value called t. Basically in generic we are denoting as a t only. Okay. So in this t, first time if you pass as a string, your all the data whatever you define, it becomes the t only. So suppose that instead of integer I can pass here t. Okay, here also I can pass t. Means if you pass a string here, these all two automatically got integer type. If you pass a string from here, these two automatically got as a string type. If you pass float, float also, right? So this is the 100% generic. Likewise also if you pass here t1, okay, and here you pass t2, okay, and t1 you want to pass here t1 and t2, and here also t1 t2. See how our previous code got replaced with the actual generic. First we given the string integer, then from string integer we just write a dynamic. Suppose that from client side I will pass two argument string. So this also becomes your string and this also becomes your string. I will pass integer. This also becomes your integer. This also becomes your integer. I will pass a string integer. This becomes a string. This becomes integer. So everything is dynamic. All type whatever we are passing from client or main method, it got adopted very well. There is no hard coding required. So we understood that class, interface, method. Okay, so for method type, if you see that we have the class as a generic where we are passing t as a data type, which becomes the universal or generalized generic type. Okay, so here if I will pass, if I will create one method called public t get data. Okay, so this method is whatever it will accept, it will return it. So if it is string you are passing, so return type of this one is string type. If you pass integer, return types of integer. So this is the no argument method. Same as if you pass here argument here, something like that, t get my data, t a comma t b comma t c. Actually this is how, if without generic, how this method will look like is, I will tell you here. So this is your t. Suppose that it return the string type data. Okay, and it is first argument is string, second argument is also string, and third argument is also string. Fair? So this is the actual method. Without generic we supposed to write, and we are doing any operation here, that is fine. But in generic what we will do, in this string I will replace with the t, that this type I am accepting from the class here. When I will get the instance, I will get this type. Okay, and this string I am replacing with this tree. This is second argument string I am replacing with the generic, and third argument I am also replacing with the generic. So this code and this code is same. Only thing is that this code only accept string as a argument and string return type, whereas this code will accept all types, all valid types of argument and the return type. Got it? So we understood that class, we understood that interface, we understood that method. Okay, same as if you want to create the constructor also. So right click, source, generate constructor, to create constructor here. See, you have two types, two data which is private types. You have to initialize using constructor. So first one is my data, second one is my TA, and both are T types, and both we are getting initialized here. So we know how to use the generic over class, over interface, over method, over constructor, and over any of the collections API. Okay, if you see here, we understood list, we understood map also, which is very fine now. Okay, now what is the third thing we understood here? Now how to write the custom generic class, we almost done here. See, my generic class here, class, no, see, we almost done here. So this is generic class, generic example class, where I am passing T as the argument. T is nothing but your types, integer, string, whatever. Okay, and I have created two variable here, and that also I am just keeping as a T only. And just get data, my data, these are two method, and this is your constructor just for initialization. So this is the rule to create or define your generic custom class. If you want to test this, probably you can have one main method. Okay, so in that main method you need to create the instance of this one. Okay, equal to, see here, you are creating instance here, so it is expecting your type here. So you can have A, you can pass here B, close this one, and I want this one to be a string type, which is also fine. Now string A equal to something, and what is B? B is also here, write something API, and here POTHI. That's good. So what we did is we just created the instance of this client where I have passed a string, where I defined this class act as a string, and here I am passing two argument as a string type also AB. Okay, which is very good. Now with help of this one, if you run this code dot any of the method, you can ask, I don't know what it will print it, since there is no logic here. My data, is there any method there? My data, okay, it accept two, get data, it accept only one. Okay, right click, run as, there is no SOP, there is nothing, no exception, right? So fine. Okay, so if you see, the same class I have used as a string, and the same class also I have used as a integer. So I am just free to use this class as a any kinds of type, right? And I am able to do the operation. However, implementation is not there, that is different thing, but I can use. So this is the generic way to create your custom class or generic class. Now what is the advantage? Advantage is very simple, as you understand. Java programmer has the clarity to specify the types of objects, means they understand, okay, if this is a string type, then I have to get the value in string only, or else I have to typecast explicitly. Okay, so when we will retrieve also, we will got to know. Okay, so we can't, there is no chance for class exception, since everything is very clear. We understood that, okay, these types of data is coming. So these are all the basic advantage we have. So meaning of some frequently used term in generic. Okay, if you have set and e, means e is called a formal parameters. If you have set integer, means you are just telling the set is integer types, but this one is set as any types, whereas this one set as a integer types. And this t extends comparable, means this is bounded parameter types, means it extend here from comparable, and it is super types of this wild card. I will tell you, not in this video but into the next video, since my video got length high. Okay, so this is the simple meaning of this one. So some of the thing that is not allowed, means we already know that. Okay, static field of generic types not allowed, means when we are defining any generic types and you will keep here static, that is not allowed. Suppose that you have here this one generic type my data, if you probably add it here static, it will give you the exception. Okay, since static is not allowed, see, cannot make a static reference. So this is the first thing you have to always take care. Could not create the instance of generic, means this t, means there is nothing like t equal to new t. No, this is something not up. Fine. So this is also not allowed. Now generic are not compatible with primitive type, that we already know, since only it accept only your wrapper class in collection, and if you pass some class type generic also, like a student. Okay, you can create it, but you need to create the student class somewhere. So something like that you can use. So this is your basic not allowed thing. Okay, so let me summarize you. Actually, I have covered many of the topic. So basic generics is used to save your code or to avoid the class cast exception. Okay, this is the only thing you have to remember always while working with the generic. In this topic, only one part I have skipped is that wildcard, how to use the wildcard. That probably I will cover into the next video. Okay, yeah, thanks for watching this video.